This is the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom show, The Wake Up Call on WCOM, LP, Chapel Hill and Carrboro, 103.5 on your FM dial, or live streaming at WCOMFM.org. You can also watch the show on the People's Channel after a week's delay on Thursday night at 10 p.m., Friday morning at 6 a.m., or Tuesday at noon. The show will also be available on our YouTube channel, Wolf Wake Up Call. I'm Iris Schweitzer here with our host, Lori Hoyt, and Emily O'Hare on the camera. Today our special guests are Karen Mills and Linda Bourne.
We're sharing a mic here. We've only got 3 mics. So we have 2 guests, so Iris and I are sharing. And we're here on a very warm but beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Here every Wednesday from 5 to 6. And as warm as it is, it's reminding me that we are in the middle of a climate crisis. And our show today will be an important aspect of that. A lot of times people are saying, oh, it's so terrible and the government's got to do something. But there's a lot of things that we can do as citizens. And some people say, oh, it's just a drop in the bucket, but you know, if enough people are doing something that makes a difference, it fills up the bucket and can fill up a lot more than the bucket. And so our 2 guests today have made a real dedicated commitment to helping us learn how to be more effective citizens, and delighted to have them here. They came to our WILF meeting. They've been at Binkley Church, and so Karen and Linda, we're so glad you could come on this hot afternoon and tell us a little bit about what you're doing to make the world a better place and our climate a little more moderate.
Well, Lori, thanks for having us. We're really glad to be here. Like you said, we've been working with Binkley Baptist Church, but we're owned a business here in Carrboro for about 20 years, just right down the street. So we're the former owners of Spotted Dog.
And so I know Spotted Dog changed the name. Are you no longer the owners of the new restaurant, or?
No, we're not.
You're taking a break.
We're taking a little bit of a break, but we're still back dealing with food and digging in dumpsters. So.
So was it having 20 years? No wonder you deserve a break. I've had a lot of families working in restaurants over many years, and I know it's hard work. It's gratifying work because it's a wonderful thing to be feeding people, especially better than bombing people. Very good to be feeding people, but it is real hard work, physical work and mental work. So is part of having had a restaurant and knowing how much food waste there could be, is that part of what you got interested in this?
It was a start for us. We, since 1998, we've actually been composting. The Orange County Solid Waste Management now works with Brooks Contractor, who we'd like to give a shout out to. They're great out there. But prior to that program, we used to work with Farmer John. His name was Farmer John, and he'd come pick up our waste, and he would take it back to his farm and transform it. We did that the first year, and then from 99 on, we started composting, and as Karen will tell you, recycling, and pretty much just doing everything we could to reduce our carbon footprint, to not generate waste. And our health inspectors used to tell us that they thought that we were probably the least waste-producing restaurant in Orange County. It really was a mission for us. We worked really hard at it, and I think the composting or diverting organics, paper products, things like that from the landfill, I think that was really, really key for us. And Karen will tell you, we grew into that. Over the years, we learned every single day something new. So we didn't start knowing this, but we grew into it over almost 20 years.
Yeah, well, I've been interested in I think many of us who try to be conscientious have been interested for a long time. But when I heard you all at our meeting, I realized there's so much more, and I think there's so many misconceptions. Like, maybe we could talk about, paper plates. I thought if I used paper plates, that was a good thing, better than styrofoam or whatever, you know, and put them in the trash, but then I found out that that's not the best thing.
It is better than styrofoam, but.
Yes, but using paper plates. So what happens if you're putting it in your trash bag and it gets picked up for the trash collector and then to the landfill, do they really disintegrate?
Well, unfortunately, they do if they wind up in the trash, and that's we get that question a lot. They're like, "Well, what's the big deal? I just throw this in the trash." And the thing of it is when landfills aren't designed to break down. To materials. So when they do, if something makes it in there, whether it be organic food waste or paper plates, things like that, then they're going to break down anaerobically. And when they break down anaerobically, that's when the methane gas is created. And methane gas is what is really a culprit to our global warming, and really is 25 times more effective at holding heat in than carbon dioxide.
So that's the part that a lot of times I'm just beginning to understand. They break down, but not in the breakdown way that you think, where they become part of nature or whatever. They break down in a very destructive way with methane gas. And I've heard, have you heard of that? You probably have, that there's been some fires started in landfills or explosions because of methane.
We've heard of instances like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we try to tell people about landfills, and in particular, most people don't know that in Orange County, our landfill's been closed since 2013. And generally, when we choose to send something to a landfill, because it really, really is a choice, especially when we have the option to do otherwise, when we choose to send something to a landfill, we're making the choice to negatively affect those people who live near the landfill. We've closed ours in Orange County, and we now ship all of our landfilled waste to Sampson County, to a town called Roseboro. And that town is a very small town located just 1.2 miles away from the landfill. It's a marginalized community, about 36.5% African American, at least 20% working poor. So all we're really doing right now is we've shifted it. We're sending it away, and when we send things away, we think that's okay because we don't have to see it. But we are equally impacting in a very negative way the community there.
You're ahead of me though, because I was part from the Women's International League and the NAACP. We worked for many years with the Rogers Eubanks Neighborhood Association, before that the Rogers Road Community. That's where the landfill was until 2013. It had been promised that if they took it, it would be for 10 years, and then they would cover it over with dirt and have a park. And also, I've heard also that they were promised to get water lines and sewer lines. So 40 years later, they were still struggling. And so we were so glad, after many, many, many years, and the whole community fortunately did get involved to help Rogers Road community to get it out of here. But now we're dumping it in another poor, marginalized community. So we've got rid of it here, and I'm glad for the people who suffered with it for 40 years, but we've really not solved the issue. And I don't think a lot of people realize that either. It's like, phew, we got it out of here, because they had 40, or actually more than 40 years of, it was Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and Orange County's waste. And over years, that makes a huge, huge mess. And the water became toxic. It's so destructive to the earth, it's so destructive to any community, and there's always going to be some community.
Right.
So if we really care, we've got to start thinking, what can we do to reduce the amount of stuff that we put into landfills, and you all are working on a zero waste.
Well, moving towards zero waste.
Towards
zero waste.
Before we get there, Karen, tell them how much waste actually, how much organics actually go to the landfill.
Right. Well, Orange County did do a survey. The most recent one was 2017, and they analyzed trash samples, and about 100 across the county, about 100 different samples. And what they discovered is that of this waste, 78% of that waste was either recyclable or compostable. So 31% was recyclable, but the big number is 47% of that was compostable.
Oh, I gotta write this down.
Oh, no.
So, no, wait a minute, say
down.
it again, say it again.
So, of the samples that they took in 2017, they found that 78% of the trash was actually divertible, either
Okay.
through recycling or composting. 31% of that was recyclables. A percentage was what you could probably put in your curbside bin. The other percentage was bulkier items that you could take over to a convenience center or something like that. So we just grouped that together and say it's 31%. But the big number was the 47% of compostable waste, which could include food, organics,
Yard waste.
some low-grade papers, things like that, things that will break down. And so
That's almost half.
It's almost half.
Of what was being sent to the landfill could have been
Wow.
diverted if we could just get people jazzed about composting.
Right.
And that's something that, I live in an apartment, and when I lived in a townhouse, I used to had a compost thing in the yard. But, now I'm in a senior apartments and we don't compost. And about, almost 2 years ago, Orange County started an experimental composting, at least experimental in terms of, I don't know if they'd had it before then at Eubanks, but where they started it at the farmer's market. And the first 50 would get a free bucket, otherwise the buckets are $5, and I was one of the first 50. And so, every Saturday morning, which is not that hard, I bring my little bucket over to the farmer's market. And if some Saturday I have meetings and couldn't make it, I can go to Eubanks. They
Right.
have that every time that they're open, which is very often, most days of the week, is a Wednesday, I believe.
I believe.
They have a special big bin there for compost. So you have some choices, and that experimental program, it seems to be taking off great in Carborough.
I think so. And it's,
They have, I think they said, the big dumpsters, I think 3 or 4 big dumpsters full every Saturday morning in those few.
Actually 5, and they're 64-gallon containers. And they're, what the program at the farmer's market, Orange County has a really wonderful organics waste collection program. So you can take your organics to the Eubanks Road facility, which if you get into recycling facilities, it's beautiful.
I want to lead tours. I just
Yeah,
think it's the
it's
most awesome place to go.
And you can also take it to Cedar Grove and Hillsboro, Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove and
Oh,
Hillsboro.
really? That's not the only
And,
place?
no, and that's we have 3, and the third is the farmer's market, and that's really intended, from what I understand, as an educational collection system to let people know about the program, and then of course to encourage to take them to, say, the Eubanks Road facility, where we have a little bit more volume. But there are currently, I believe, 5 64-gallon containers that get filled up on Saturday mornings from 7 to noon.
There's a pretty steady stream, one car after another.
I volunteered there, and you get to see the same faces on Saturday mornings, and, which is a lot of fun because you get to see the same people once a week. And people get really excited about having some place to take their materials because it's not going into their trash.
Well, for me, I just live a few blocks away, so it's a lot more convenient for me than Eubanks, so
Absolutely.
I'll stick with them. So I think they're keeping it up, and in fact, if you missed out, and they were selling buckets when they first started to, and they just told me last Saturday that in the next week or 2 they're gonna have more buckets.
We'll bring you one. We know where to get them, so yes.
Yeah.
They actually sell them at the administrative building for Orange County Solid Waste Management, and they sell them at cost. But
Yes,
we will
$5.
gift you one.
Yeah, $5, and they're nice little buckets, a tight-fitting lid.
They are.
They're very charming, beige with a little,
Green
they
top.
change it with a green top, and just a nice size for at least for a week's worth of stuff. And so so there's things that are not that hard to do, but I think to me it was like learning about paper plates. So if people use paper plates, I guess the best thing would be to scrape them off and rinse them off and then put them in your regular recycling.
No, actually, you can, the paper plates, if they're 100% paper plates, so
Yeah.
I'm not shouting out brand names, but I mean, Chinette is a basic white paper plate.
Yeah.
What you have to be careful of are some of the other brand name plates that may have a little plastic barrier that basically it prevents the food from maybe leaking
Yeah.
through or something like that. Those are not compostable. They're not recyclable. They're better than styrofoam, but they're still going to be trash. So then landfill trash. So you would scrape off the food and then throw the plate away. But if you can get the white ones, that's 100% compostable, and it'll say it. That is the thing that we look at, is you want to see that on the side of the packaging, and that it's certified compostable, and you can just put that plate right in your bucket.
Right, yes.
I just want to say, speaking of composting, the Weaver Street at Southern Village, on the side there, they have a lot of those compost bins. That's where I take mine, just an additional place.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Really.
Thanks
So-
for sharing that. We didn't
Yes.
know that.
So ideally, though, since you might be thinking you're using something that's compostable, but it may have a plasticized coating, ideally, as much as possible, use your regular dishes.
That's a really good option.
Yes,
We like
yes,
that.
yes, yes. And we go to a little church in the woods, Unity Center of Peace, and a couple of years ago, there was somebody, one of the church members really said we've got to do better, and so now when we have potlucks, or even Sunday morning where it's just snacks after the service, if it's not a formal potluck, they use regular glass dishes, ceramic, whatever you want to call, and also cloth napkins. And so that's really wonderful. That's the ideal, right?
Right.
Not to use paper or anything.
Right. When well, since we're on churches, let's talk about what we're doing at Beakley.
Yes, let's hear what the
Beakley Baptist Church. So we've been composting there. I told you we got out of restaurants, so about a year and a half ago.
That's right.
Right, we started doing and cooking on the Wednesday night dinners at Binkley Church. And so we're just naturally bringing along our 5-gallon bucket, and we're going to compost. So, of course, we got Linda likes to call it you're doing what? And we just made a sign, and we just collected all the food waste and hauled it back, to Carborough, because we just couldn't throw it in the trash. And so we just kept doing that, and a lot of people really got interested. So we actually then joined Earth Ministries Committee, which is our Earth Care committee at church. And the co-chairs were really excited about this compost. And I think originally they wanted to just have a compost bin that we could create our own compost on
Like a
site.
community garden.
Like a community garden, but Binkley just doesn't have the space to do that. So, and we were both used to commercial composting.
Which allows us to compost a larger array of
Right.
organics as well.
Right.
That's another point we'll get to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we started working with Earth Ministries Committee, and what did we do? We were they wanted to get the whole church involved and get the whole church composting. So we began working with our chair and drafting policy to make this happen. And that happened in April of
April
last
of
year,
2018.
2018. And the church approved and drafted what we call a proclamation of sustainability that basically says we're going to do everything within our means to care for the earth. And I'm really summarizing a really big document.
Yeah.
But, and then we started talking to Blair Pollock about Orange County.
He's wonderful.
He's wonderful.
Yes, our
Because-
church is talking to him
Yeah,
too.
so we had worked with him at the restaurant and to see if we could get Binkley on the program. And so we rolled out our first cart in
In May, we were
May.
composting from January to May, but carrying it
Well,
off.
we were carrying it off.
Between Blair getting us hooked up with Brooks contractor again, we know them, and Amy Brooks and AJ are great out there. They brought us onto the program, and so we started the official launch in May. And just a quick summary of that, from May to December 31st of last year, we were able to divert 10.03 tons of waste from the landfill, and we've continued that program. We just got our numbers a couple of days ago, and this year, from January 1 to June 30th, we have diverted, what is it, Karen, 9.385 tons.
So you have some big containers?
We have 3 of those 64. They look like your rollout carts that you may or may
Yes.
not have at your homes. They're very,
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
similar, but they are for organics. And we have those at Binkley. They get picked up a couple of days a week. And it's the most amazing program. We have lots of folks we have a Meals on Wheels in Chapel
Chapter.
Hill. Is the chapters there at Binkley, and Josie and Rachel over there have just been rock stars. We have a preschool known as KidScope. And that's Julie and Melanie, and they've been so supportive because those are groups that would otherwise generate a lot of food waste and would go into the landfill. So those 2 groups have just been, they've just been really amazing in helping us to do this and to teach other people.
Oh, that is interesting that you can have those big 64-gallon bins there, which is what they have at Carborough Farms.
And they're the exact same bins, you're right.
Yeah.
And we fill those up weekly, and they pick them up on Wednesdays and Fridays, and they're often quite full. And we're very proud of that because, you know, it would certainly be better not to have as much food waste. Because, you know, there are so many people who are food insecure in this very area, you know, within walking distance of where we are right now. But if we're going to generate the waste, then let's at least get it back into this whole circular economy so that it just doesn't go to a dead end. Let's make something out of it. And, you know, compost isn't just something for gardeners or a soil amendment. Compost has the capability of drawing down carbon. Compost is, I mean, it's pretty dirt.
That's what I was going to ask you. Because a lot of people hear the word compost but not realize that it's black gold. And,
It is.
and maybe you just started, but maybe amplify that a little bit more about, you know, what the compost, what all that food waste and all that stuff, what it turns into.
Well, you want me to take that one?
Yep.
But,
You-
Okay.
well, black gold is what it turns into.
Yeah.
And then if we're able to put that back into the soil and farming and all that, then it really, it goes into the soil and it draws down carbon from the atmosphere, which will alleviate and help to, well, I won't say eliminate, but it really help with our climate crisis.
I didn't know that it drew down the carbon. I knew that it enriched the soil.
Right, it does do that,
That
but
as well, yes.
that as well.
And
But it-
aerates it, enriches it, all of that good stuff.
Yes.
And that is wonderful. So I think if more people realized that it's not only keeping it out of the landfill and hurting other people, but what it does, it's like you're throwing away gold, you know. It really is such, and I don't know how many people also realize how much topsoil this country is losing every year.
Right,
You know, Weaver Street Market just recently did this major, as you all probably know,
we saw.
renovation, but they had education panels before they did it, why they were doing and what they were doing, and said that they were losing 4 inches of topsoil each year by
We
the way
watched it
they.
every year. They were having to reseed or redo the yard, and I think this was a good choice for them for that reason.
Yeah, they explained the whole thing, which I thought was so smart of them, and also it was a great educational thing for the rest of us too. So we didn't fuss at them for what they were doing, and how the trees were at such risk. You know what they were doing to protect those trees, all of that loss of topsoil. And I think one of the things I think we could talk a little bit about, if you're a home gardener and are composting, you have to be much more stringent in certain ways about what you put in your compost. Usually you don't put any animal bones
Right.
at all. I think part of that is so that you don't attract rodents to your home.
Dairy is also a problem in most, you know, fish
Dairy
bones,
and citrus, I always was told not to put citrus in. I don't know if that's still, this was some years back that I was doing that. But what's nice about composting for the town and that wonderful Brooks company is they had a big article in the Indy about them just a few months ago about what they were doing. Is that you can put all of that. You don't have to the whole big thing, no plastic.
Right.
That's the big no-no. And what I did not realize, those little labels on your each piece of fruit, that a lot of them have plastic on them. So I was happily feeling very virtuous, dumping my compost one Saturday morning, and this wonderful guy who's there helping, he said, "Oh, wait a minute," you know. He said, "You can't have those little labels," and I did not realize that they had plastic on them. So yeah, that's the only big no-no that I know of. So I'm just getting a very strong signal from Iris that we need to take a station break. We'll catch our breath and we'll come back to Karen and Linda about zero waste composting and recycling.
This is Will's Wake Up Call on WCOM-LP, Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 FM. You can stream us live at WCOMFM.org.
Let's see, do we have any announcements? We just had the 4th of July. That was good. I can't think of any.
Badges tonight,
Okay, want to talk
but
about
I'm
that?
sorry, well, I don't remember. I know there's supposed to be a CIA agent talking about some of the goings-on, so it
Oh.
sounded very interesting, but
Ba-
sorry about no
Badge-
detail.
Badge, thank you. Badge is balance and accuracy in journalism, and Jerry Marketis, one of our activist friends, has been doing it for many, many years. Maybe as long as you were, or maybe longer than you had your restaurant, maybe 30 years, a long time. And what they are trying to do, because the media, as we know, still does not always report things in the best way, so they kind of keep an eye and give us a lot of information about media. And so balance and accuracy in journalism. They're on once a month on the third Wednesday of the month at Community Church on Pure Fort Road at 7:30. And tonight they're gonna have an ex-CIA agent, and I bet I know who it is. I bet it's Ray, and I can't think of his last name, because he's a grandfather now, but do you know who?
It's retired,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
He's been an activist ever since he retired from the CIA, and he's really wonderful. So you'll learn a lot about what's going on behind the scenes with our government. So I recommend going there, and if you don't get there tonight, since it may not be enough notice, keep that in mind. Mark your calendar for next month.
7:30, by the way.
7:30. That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 7:30. Yeah. After you have time to have your supper, and then to go. Okay, I can't think of any other announcement right now. The Raging Grannies just made a video for NARAL on women's reproductive issues, so stay tuned. I imagine it'll be on YouTube, and stay tuned for us. We are now on YouTube, and that's a pretty new thing. The last, about 4 or 5 months, and you have to go to YouTube and go to WILPF, WILPF, which stands for the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the WILPF Wake Up Call. And then you can get this show in a couple of days, and you can also get our past shows. So this show won't be out till Iris does her magic with technology and gets it on YouTube. But next week you will be on the People's Channel. I'll just put those times again. We're on Tuesdays at noontime, Thursdays at 10 p.m., and Friday morning at 6 a.m. So yes, the early birds and the night owls, and when I was fussing about that, that's when we got the noontime on Tuesday. So you've got 3 different times. So if you like to just sit and relax and look at your TV, you can get it on the People's Channel. It's Channel 8 in Chapel Hill, and what is it in Carborough?
I think 3.
3? No.
That sound right?
I think 4.
Okay,
Anyhow.
try both.
JPC, the People's Channel, look it up. And it's in Chapel Hill, Carborough, and it's also in Durham. So we are becoming our own little media empire here, and now on YouTube. So you'll get good exposure, and I'm hoping that we'll get a lot more people intrigued and interested in recycling, kind of upping their ante on recycling, but also to start thinking about composting. And so we've been talking about how it's not that hard, and that we're so lucky to live here. A friend of mine, one of my neighbors, is from Louisiana, and she said they do very little of it there.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole state,
Right.
but the state where she has some family, they're
Yeah.
totally, you know, and another daughter moved there, and she was horrified. Moved there from around here, and couldn't find any place to do any recycling. So we are blessed.
We are, and we were just at a conference last night over at Pullen Baptist that we presented a program over there on moving your faith organization towards zero waste, because we've been getting a lot, as we've been talking about what we've done at Binkley, we're getting a lot of questions from other faith organizations, churches, temples, and we've got a wide assortment of people who are interested in how they can get their organization headed in this direction, or they may be doing a little composting, but how do we get the whole organization on board? But one of the women that I spoke to, her daughter, she just came back from Portland, and she was amazed at how much further some other states are in that, how they do regulate that you can't throw stuff away. I mean, really,
Yeah.
they are. I think it was Portland, Oregon, or that, and they have been
In San Francisco.
In San Francisco, there's a number of cities and towns that have mandated that you have to compost. You have to up the ante on your recycling and really work to do a better job at it. And that there's some places that will. It's called pay. What is it, Linda? Pay when they charge you for your trash.
Well, they incentivize it.
They
by
incentivize
charging
it.
you for your trash.
So they charge you to dump your trash, but they'll pick up all the compost and recyclings that you have for free. You know, so
Oh, that's that's
right. It's kind of a pay-as-you-go type thing. There's a number of cities and municipalities that are doing that. So, but her question was, wonder why it takes us so long here to get a municipality to start to move Carrboro, Chapel Hill, Orange counties, continue down that road of
Towards zero
towards
waste.
zero waste. And, you know.
So I was thinking we were one of the best.
No, we are.
No, we
No,
are.
we are
Orange
great.
County's doing an
We're
amazing
great.
job.
We're great, but
Right.
that's very interesting that there are some places that have put some improvements that we can work towards here.
Right, well, that's
That-
good.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
as
good.
Blair Pollock will tell you, we first need to learn to recycle right. That's
Right.
the most important thing. And then we're adding in this
Yes.
whole element of composting to divert all that extra waste from the landfill. And we do need to revisit recycling. So
Yes. Actually, I live in senior apartments, and it's a struggle for people too, because sometimes people get older and a little forgetful, and some people didn't grow up with it, and it's a constant having to remind people, no, you cannot put cardboard boxes into the recycling bin. Well, we'll get fined for that. But people, it's a learning curve for everybody. Most of us didn't grow up with that.
Right.
And thank goodness it's here, but it's constantly learning how to do it better. And what is this? I can't read it.
Tell us how to recycle right.
Well, what anyone has to do, whatever your municipality is, we happen to be in Orange County, if you move somewhere, check with your town, your municipality, to find out what the recycling rules are. And Orange County's done a really good job of making it very clear. You can call over, you can get charts, you can go online, you can download what is recyclable. For plastics, for instance, number 2s, 4s, and 5s are recyclable. number ones and twos, if the neck is, for instance, smaller than the body, that's recyclable regardless of the number.
Oh.
And there's this notion of, we call it wishful recycling. What's the other one? I forget. But when you really want something to be recyclable and you just put it into the recycling bin, that's caused us a great problem. And that is one of the, sometimes you'll open a recycling bin. I mean, we do it occasionally. We'll just walk down the street and just peek into people's recycling carts. It's just for fun. But we dumpster dive as well. But and it looks like trash. It looks like landfill trash. It's indistinguishable from that because it indeed is. And so we really all need to take it upon ourselves to take the responsibility, not to, I think, say, well, I didn't know. If you don't know, who is going to know? So we have to find out. Make yourself a chart, print it off, and just make sure that what you're putting into the recyclables should be there. And then, we always encourage people when they're shopping to make sure they're purchasing things that can be recycled in this municipality. I was at the farmer's market an hour and a half before we came over here, and I purchased some blueberries. I was so excited that we still have blueberries, and I was so distressed to see them in a plastic clamshell style box.
Instead of the
paper
one that you
really
got
cool,
last
cardboard type boxes. And I asked the vendor, and he just he wasn't as concerned as I was. And so my job is next time to get him just a little bit more on board with maybe how he could change his packaging.
That I'm glad you brought up, because that a lot of people don't realize those little, what you're calling clamshell, those thin little plastic containers. They're very often in the supermarket, in particular, berries and things come in, and you cannot recycle them. Now, I have a daughter who lives in Chatham County, and there's a place in Chatham County that you can. She says, and she's a Nazi about recycling. So I save up all my little thin, I'll have a whole shopping bag full. But that, if it's a local vendor like at the farmer's market, that's somebody who can think about it. Or you could, even if he won't, I guess we could bring like some other kind of little bag with us and transfer them and hand
Well, I
them.
would like to tell you I attempted to do that and I was not successful. He told me I could just bring my containers back and I wanted those blueberries. But that is, that's a consumer decision. I decided to go ahead and purchase it with the plastic.
Yeah.
Take it back. You said you take it back.
I am taking those plastic containers back, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
But really, we try to, Karen and I don't know if you know this or not, we have a Facebook page called Trashy Women. We found ourselves
Trashy women.
Trashy women. We were dubbed that by someone at church because
we always had our heads in the trash cans, or our
Right.
hands and arms, and trying to sort things and pull things out. And so somebody called us Trashy Women, and we decided to own it. So we do.
we took it back.
So please visit our Facebook page and like it. But it's Trashy Women, and right now we're in the middle of Plastic Free July, which is an international campaign to encourage people to refuse to use plastic, and to what we've been posting every day is an alternative. Instead of, say, a paper cup, you might bring your own beverage container, or instead of a plastic bag for your produce, bring some other bag. And it doesn't have to be something expensive that you purchased. We made produce bags I made one out of my old Weaver Street Market shirt from 1989, and one from my old Wellspring shirt. If you
Produce
remember
bags out of
Wellspring.
T-shirts is what
Yeah.
she's talking about.
I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, we use
Just-
something to make something out of, but yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Weaver Street sells those bags. They're very thin, and there's 3 different sizes, so you can,
And those are
keep
wonderful.
reusing
Keep
them.
them in your car and
Yeah.
then you just use them when you go to the
Yeah.
store.
And they're only $3, by the way.
I'm so glad I came. Actually, I didn't know that Weaver Street sold those little bags.
Yeah. I'll get you one.
I know that at Trader Joe they have those ones made of corn.
They do. Trader Joe's is now, they're selling, not selling, but for your produce, although Trader
Yes.
Joe's is working on their packaging as well, but they have compostable produce bags.
Yes.
Which is certainly a better option than the alternative, as long as the person using it understands that it's compostable, and then hopefully we'll put it in the right place.
Yes.
We do encourage people to.
I reuse mine too.
Well, you're a rock star. So
I know.
you get
You get the gold
you get
star.
the gold star and the fist bump today. We do a lot of that. So, but yeah, we do encourage people. That is a good option. A better option, of course, is what you're talking about, which is having your own bag that you can reuse, that you can wash,
Great.
and so that we're not generating any waste whatsoever.
Well, I'm going to be hightailing
you know,
it
also-
right out of here.
I'm so excited about this topic. Also at Weaver Street, they sell the larger tall kitchen bags that are compostable. They're that, and they seem very strong. Small ones and the larger ones. So
And as long as, like I said, if you use that for, we use those at Binkley in our larger bins, and
Yeah.
and for
Oh.
the compost. So
Okay.
what has to go in there is compost, and you can take it.
Yes.
So, and the thing of it is a lot of people can compost, especially if you're bringing it in town. You can compost so many more things. You can compost napkins,
Because it's
paper
going to a
towels, because it's
commercial
going to a commercial
facility.
facility. It's going to do better than
Yes, you
it
can
is
do
in. You can do paper towels,
tissues.
even Q-tips that are 100% cotton, not the ones with plastic in them,
Yeah.
but 100% cotton balls, things like that you would normally just throw in the trash. You can put in your compost bin.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but I don't use them anyhow. But
And compostable
those
take
who
out
do-
containers.
Right.
For those who do, that's right. You can put paper and napkins, and you could put paper plates, except if they have a plastic coating.
Right. If it's shiny, if you can look at it,
You
it's a
can
little
see
bit. You
it.
can see it. It's got a little shiny.
Yeah.
If it's shiny, you can assume it's polyethylene or PE coated, but otherwise, if it's got a matte finish, and you can also look at the packaging, you're
Yeah.
looking for the phrasing BPI certified,
Yeah.
which is the company that certifies compostable materials, and that's what you're looking for. And if you're just not sure, and waxed coated like the old school little bathroom cups that we had growing up, those are compostable. All the wax is
Wax
petroleum based.
So wax is okay.
Our
the
commercial
plastic is
composting
not.
facility, and if you
Yeah.
don't know the difference, if you take your fingernail and just play and just try to write your name in the side of the cup or your initials
Scrape up a
maybe.
little wax
If you
on
scrape
it.
up wax, that's how you
Yeah.
know it's wax, and if it's shiny, and if it's shiny and you can't get anything to come off the surface, you know that it's polyethylene coated. And as Blair Pollock will tell you, when in doubt,
Throw it
throw
out.
it out, because what you don't want to do is to contaminate the waste, the stream, the
Either
organic
the
stream.
recycling or the organics.
Right, so if you're not sure, but there's a lot of little tricks that people can learn very quickly to
Yeah.
learn what's compostable.
Yeah,
and
we
what's
ought to
not.
put out a little booklet, tricks of.
Tricks of the trade.
These are the tricks, but I just lost my track of thought. Oh, I know. One of the things that I didn't understand at first, I used a brown paper bag from shopping when I run out of my carry-on bags. I did too much, so I get a paper bag, and I use that for my recycling. And I reuse them 2 or 3 times till they get something, got them a little limp. But I used to take the whole bag if I was finished with it and put the whole thing in. And then the little newsletter came out from Orange County that said you should dump it all out and have it be loose. And I don't think a lot of people realize that either.
Right.
Not to put it in the bag so neatly, dump the whole thing out, and then you can put the paper bag in on by itself.
When the recyclables go to the mixed recycling facilities and when they do the separation, if they're bagged, especially if they're in plastic bags that are tied shut, it basically becomes trash because the
Oh,
machines
yeah.
and people can't.
They won't bother.
They can't tell what's what, so you do want your recyclables to be loose. One little tidbit a lot of people don't know is if you shred your paper, in Orange County, they want you to put it into one of those said paper bags and to close it shut. Because the small shreds of the shredded paper they function as tanglers in the equipment. So actually, you do want to take your shredded paper and put that in said
If you
paper
have
bag and
shredded
close it.
paper. Yeah.
And write shredded paper on it.
And write shredded paper on it.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it does take some commitment. It's not hard, but it does take some commitment to do it right. And I just think a program like this, and we all need constant reminders because it's an evolving landscape too in terms of what they can get, what they can sell, because the recycling really counts on being able to sell some of that stuff. And I know there's been a problem with China closing its doors on plastic bags. I always save my whatever plastic bags, like from my newspaper, whatever, and I bring them to the supermarket, to their containers for plastic.
And that's something we need to mention with the plastic bags. That does not go. They do not go into your like curbside recycling. They
Oh, I
need to be
know.
separated. A lot of people don't realize that. They put plastic bags in the trash, which we'd like to keep it out of there. But they also don't go into conventional recycling. They need to be separated. They need to be dry and clean.
Yeah, I think a lot of people realize that because they have the special bins in front of Food Lion and
markets.
Harris Teeter, for plastic bags. I think people realize that, but it doesn't hurt to mention it again. Plastic? No. Except for the supermarkets have a special, and I'm hoping that they're finding a place for that, since China has, I don't blame them, has said that, no, enough
They don't
already.
want our trash.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to mention, and you might be able to go on a little bit more with it, Karen, how infectious recycling and composting can be when people get really excited about it. It's one of the things we've been able to do through Trashy Women, we've been able to do at Binkley, and we also did it at Spotted Dog. Once people understand what to do, and realize that what they're doing does make a difference, that straw that you're using makes a difference, that putting that cup in the right place makes a difference. The small steps. I think so many of us think that climate change is just this big umbrella of
Unattainable.
something
We
that
can't do anything
unattainable,
about.
something that you can't do as an individual. But once people realize that all of these little individual baby steps, along with the mistakes, because we all make mistakes every day, but just the effort and the small steps, that collectively is what's going to make a difference. We at Binkley, there's been this just huge swell of interest from our wonderful congregation who have participated in our zaniness, and they run away from us sometimes. But really, we have a wonderful group of people who have just been taking a great part of this, and now we get phone calls. We had one woman calling with her son, I believe, in from Minnesota. He was in from college, and he was I think, studying environmentalism, and they wanted to come see our commercial composter.
Which we don't have.
We don't have one at Binkley. But the word had gotten out that we are composting, and then we started getting phone calls from other faith organizations, and it just has started to just grow exponentially. And the reason why that's so amazing is because, before long, we'll have every faith organization in Orange County, and then, what's next? Businesses. What's next? Offices. And it's just, we can all do this together. And the passion is it's infectious. I mean, how could you not want to do this?
Well, I think that both of you have an infectious passion, but I'm glad you brought up, because I'm really glad about churches getting more involved and asking for you to come and tell about your program at Binkley. I know our church has already made a start, and I know one of the members from our new Earth Care Committee has talked to Blair Pollock a couple times, so I think, we're getting really on board. And we may ask you all to come one of these days
Oh,
too.
we'd love to come help
We
you.
would.
But that brings me to businesses, because certainly, like your business, they really generated an enormous amount. What has been the response, and are you all the apostles to businesses, or is there somebody?
We would like to be. Orange County actually has quite a few, our Chapel Hill, Carver area in particular, we have quite a few restaurants that are participating in the organics waste collection program. I think the hardest part is teaching people how to do it. We have this program, and we have people wanting to do it, and there's this gap, which Karen and I are trying to fill just individually. We're currently working for free still, but we care more about, saving the environment, but just teaching people how to make this happen, because it seems like such a huge task. It's like, I want to do this, and I see that there are facilities for me to do this, but I don't know how to make it happen. So I think there is a gap there for training. We need, a group of people to be able to teach other people how to do this. But we have a lot of restaurants who are on board.
That's what I was wondering.
And some businesses, mostly restaurants, I believe, in Orange County. And it's one, making people aware that this is a problem, letting them know that it's possible for them to do something differently, and then teaching them how to do it, and then letting them know how important that is and what a difference it makes.
So restaurants are interested, but you're right, there's a gap. They might be interested, but then learning how to do it, I guess you would need some staff training, particularly.
Training goes a long ways, and I think that is true. I mean, we've gone to a couple of restaurants. We'll go out and get something, and then they're nice and serving stuff in compostable containers, and we get all excited. We're like, "Oh, you compost here?" And they're like, "No." And it just doesn't make any sense, but it looks good. So if we can just sort of complete the loop and make sure that, if you're there and you get the compostable takeout container, because that's the way they're serving it, then you are responsible and you put it in the compost bin. It goes somewhere instead of just going in the trash. And because it took a lot of money to get it, to make it, and it's nice, and we can dispose of it in a lot better way.
So they may be on board and they may be doing their takeout or their doggy bags, whatever, in compostable containers, but that does not mean that they have done all the training to actually compost in the kitchen.
Right. Yeah, and in their defense, running a small business is
Oh, I
very
know,
time
yeah.
consuming, and it's very, very difficult to get at everything.
Right.
And there is the desire. We see it everywhere we go. People are really wanting to do the right thing, and they are doing what they know how to do. So I think we just really need we need to change our whole culture around waste from the bottom up. Our youth are doing an amazing job right now, a lot better than most of us as adults are doing.
That's true.
And we need to change our culture around waste and make it easier for people to learn and to know what to do. And we need to encourage each other. I mean, Karen and I, last night I think we gave out about 150 fist bumps and high fives.
We like to have fun
just
with that.
encouraging people at the conference we were
Right.
at, just encouraging people.
What was this conference?
We were over at there's a new group called the Interfaith Care for Creation of the Triangle. Charles Coble, who is the chair of our Earth Ministries Committee at Binkley, is on the steering committee, and they're trying to bring together an interfaith organization, bringing all faith organizations in the Triangle together to work towards climate change.
Is this going to be like the 15th? Is that?
That's a
That's
different.
in Orange
that is
County.
the Orange Chatham
Orange County,
Creation Care, which is
Oh.
also a new organization. We'll be speaking there as well. So it's
Yeah.
Unity should come.
I'm
You should-
coming.
Well,
Okay,
We'll
okay.
see you.
Yeah.
We'll see you there. We're speaking there too. But it's getting. I lost my train of thought.
What you talked to last night was.
Oh,
the-
right. We talked to the folks over, and Pullen hosted it. Pullen, they do a wonderful
this
job over
was
there.
the
They,
whole
they
triangle.
hosted a triangle group,
Right.
and we had quite a few people out, and getting the message out. But people care. They want to do what's right. So
I think they do,
They
and I
do.
think that it's hard changing habits, it's hard starting something new, and it's just so easy to say, oh, I'll look into that a little bit more tomorrow. I'm busy right now, I'll check that out some other time. I can well understand that. I can just see if you all get looking for how to start a business, that you could be the training core for restaurants.
If you can help, we need a little help there. We've thought a lot about it because in this second half of life, when we sold the restaurant, Karen and I wanted to, we wanted to do something new, something different. We've both been in restaurants since college, and this was our chance to do something. We like working together. We're personal partners, but we also are business partners, and we do that most of the time pretty well together. But we were looking for something that spoke to our passions, and we're hoping we can combine both our work and our passions, and this is one of our passions. And that's kind of what we're doing.
That's kind of what we're doing.
That's where Trashy Women came
We're
from.
trashy women.
Yeah, so that at some point that could be your livelihood too.
It would be nice if,
Yeah,
if
no,
we
I
could
could
move
just
to.
say, I could go into a restaurant, we'll give you a week, of working right alongside your staff. I mean, I could just say it right. You'd be great because you know the restaurant, you know what it's like, and so you know the lingo, you know the culture. So I'd just love to know you were going around to our restaurants and helping them fill that gap.
Well, right now we're doing churches, and
You're
we're enjoying that.
doing
And there are
churches.
quite a few, and we're hoping to come to you. But
Yeah.
we've been helping everybody, advising them everything from doing waste assessments to just general documentation that we put together and provide for them to kind of give them a start as to how to begin
How to
doing
make this happen.
How to make this happen.
You are doing God's work, you are doing, this is the earth care, protecting the creation. I mean, I just am so glad to have heard of you and to have met you, and I'm so glad you could come to our show. I mean, there's always so much for all of us to learn and how to do it better, because this poor old earth is groaning under trash.
It is. Can we give, I know we're almost at the end, but we'd like to give a shout out to 3 of our young people at Binkley, because I think, as we all have seen lately, the young people are really, this is where our world is starting to make major changes. We want to give a shout out to Hannah and Aaron, who are some of our best waste station monitors. They help us. They've scraped a lot of food into our compost. And to young Dylan and his mother Emily. Dylan's Karen's little buddy, and he teaches us about
He teaches
composting
us.
and recycling, and he certainly tells us when we're not doing it correctly. But
And they're the hope, I mean.
They are the
They
hope.
are.
And
They
I'm
are.
counting on teachers, and parents, and, because these are the kids, and now the young people, we know that from Greta Thunberg and from the
Yes, indeed.
Sunshine Group and from the young people are going to lead the way, but we want to be right there working alongside them for sure. Well, if people want to get in touch with you, do you go to trashygirls.org?
If you go to Trashy
Trashy
Women, as a Facebook page,
Trashy
just come to
Women.
Trashy Women.
And messages there.
You can message us there. So, and
Would that be the best way to get in touch with trashywomen.org? Would it be .org or?
it's actually not a website, it's just a Facebook page, so just go to Trashy Women Facebook page, and we're used to, once, we get texts pretty much and phone calls
Yeah, what
24/7
is the-
questions.
So do you want to put down what is the best way to reach you, like phone,
Email or something, or?
email?
It's up to you.
Email.
Email.
Okay, what would that be?
Karen?
Mhm.
Okay, so, can't believe I'm doing my email right now, but, okay, Karen _ that's Karin.
Karen _
No, and then an underscore, like a dash, but not a dash, okay, yeah. Anyway, Karen _ Linda, Linda, @bellsouth.net.
Karen, and then,
Then an underscore,
yeah,
and then Linda, Linda, @bellsouth,
at Bell South.
.net.
Yeah, and just put in the subject line, Trashy Women
Trashy
question.
Women.
We take phone
yeah.
calls as well, we have
Yep.
people text us, they'll snap a picture of something and, hey, what do I do with this? And, we help them out, we get back pretty quickly, but, we'll establish a connection with someone, but we're happy to help anybody out, and just to get anybody started on this whole path to
Well,
zero
that-
waste.
You're doing such wonderful work, and you're getting famous around here. Definitely.
We're so glad you had us on your show.
Yes, thank you.
But I
Thanks for
mean,
your
you've
patience.
been famous, which is, thank you so much for coming, Karen and Linda. I always learn something more, and now I know about using my fingernail to know if it's wax or plastic. Thank you.